Mike Moscinski, by the way, is joining us this morning. He's the VP of Trainco Truck Driving Schools, and we are absolutely thrilled to have him. He's been doing professional driver training since '91, so maybe he knows what he's talking about. In '89, he was driving a university shuttle bus around the campus and city of Toledo while attending the University of Toledo, and that opened up the space for him to actually carve out an amazing career, not only in the CDL world, but in the CDL training world. Thrilled to have him. Mike, welcome back. How you been? How was your new year?
It's been excellent. It's been a great start to 2026. It's a little cold here in Toledo, Ohio, but it's warm today for the season. But we're glad to get back at it.
And we can unpack a lot of your bio again, like we did last time. But I kind of wanted to ask you in regards to what you saw last year as a because you have a larger picture view of this. I mean, you do know how to do training, you do know how to do hands-on work, but you get a much kind of a 30,000-foot perspective in regards to where the program's going and how you are handling people. And I was kind of curious if you noticed any at the end of last year, if you noticed any trends in your segment, if you noticed any things that were like a consistent kind of student or a consistent kind of request, what people were looking for, and if you think that will bleed into this year or if you have new expectations. I'm talking long to buy you time to think about how you might answer that question.
Thank you. Yeah, so last year, the trend I would say is that we had a big movement with ELDT, entry-level driver training. We're now into that for our second year, solid year, going into year 3 on that program at the federal level. And so you see a lot of changes where the federal government's kind of cracking down with the new administration on the schools that are in the TPR, which is the Training Provider Registry. There was a great influx of new training providers, which was a lot of people that were doing their own solo training prior to the rules were starting to come on board and starting to put their program in. Obviously, they weren't doing it correctly and not meeting exactly the federal standards, and the government's in a big crunch now because of some of the incidents that have happened nationally to really crack down on those schools that aren't actually doing what they're supposed to be doing within the guidelines. So we're seeing a big crunch on that now. So those companies need to really up their game to get into federal compliance to make that work, or they're going to need to start going to the professional schools to get that to accomplish. So the professional schools have been out there doing it, and they've been monitored and graded by the state guidelines, especially in Ohio, and I have a school in Michigan as well. They have a lot of state regulation that keeps us in line, and that obviously has met federal standards. And so we're all doing the good training out there, but there are some of those programs that are just small businesses that are trying to say, hey, let's get in here and do our training, and they're not quite meeting the standards. So either they're going to have to really up their game to get to that standard, or they're going to have to flow into the school side. So we're going around talking to those smaller business owners that have 1-2 trucks. It may not even be tractor trailer situation. It could be straight trucks, could be pintle hook operation, and make certain that they're in compliance or getting them on board to come on and train with us.
By the way, just to kind of let people know, I want people to go to traincoinc.com. That's important. You can find out about Mike's group of folks over there. And he, by the way, has got 30 years of experience as a CDL examiner for the state of Ohio. He's president of the Toledo Trucking Association, and has been a licensed auto trainer and recently became a licensed Class D auto examiner and test site for the state of Ohio, which is what he is actually speaking of in regards to his expertise. Mike, I was kind of curious, since you are an examiner, I kind of wanted our listeners to understand this, because this has been in the news recently about the fact is there's a great deal of concern about substandard driving, or one of my drivers found a 24-hour program, and of course he and I kind of did some dig deep in, and what we discovered in the process of that was it really was fly by night. Can you talk about as an examiner, as a CDL examiner, when you're looking at people who have come out of training programs, what are you looking for when you see that? How do you not so much know when people are not right? What do you say when you see a couple of things in your own brain going like, this person's been properly trained, they've got to wait, they've got some stuff they have to learn, but they're going to be just fine, as opposed to, yeah, we have a problem here?
Yeah, on the testing side, generally speaking, the person that has been trained has a routine, has a system, kind of goes through the the truck inspection methodically, goes through the maneuver methodically, has a process. Those that are untrained are bouncing all over the place, especially in a pre-trip environment. They're all over the truck. They're from the front to the back. They're in, they're out. They're all over the spectrum on that, and that leads you to believe on the pre-trip side they definitely haven't gotten no good quality training. And then on the skill side, they'll attack the maneuver kind of, haphazardly. Don't use strategic pull-ups and things of that nature to their favor, looking in the wrong mirror right out of the gate. So that's kind of what you see. But as far as examining the score or the test, you score it just as what happens. So what they give you is what they give you, and if they get lucky and they make it, they're going to get in there and potentially pass. That sometimes is a scary sight. But generally, those that have been trained have a process, have a method, and that process and method gets them through, and they're going to be successful.
Isn't it interesting whether it is a 4-year college where somebody is getting a liberal arts degree or whether it is a proper training program where somebody's getting an operator's license or the ability to handle one piece of equipment or another? The people who actually got in proper training, it's less about can I run this thing and more like do I have a process or a system? And it seems to me that whether it is a VOTEC or a professional, private school that kind of focuses on this, it always begins foundationally, doesn't it? It always begins with the idea that we're going to slow things down in order for you to work the fastest and most efficiently you can. Does that make sense?
That's absolutely correct. You have to have a great foundation, a great base, and that goes with anything in life. I mean, whether you're playing sports or you're driving a truck or building a skyscraper, I mean, without a good foundation, you have nothing to start with. It's going to collapse somewhere along the way. So you start with good basics, good foundational skills, and once you have those, you can do anything, and you can do it in a much more efficient way.
So let's pivot to Trainco then, because at your core, as part of your mission statement, the only focus is quality driver training and driver testing. And we talked a little bit about what you're looking for in a test. And by the way, you gave me a chill because at the end of the day, if somebody this is one of those really weird cases with somebody passing a test who maybe got lucky in the sense that it's like you've got to have a system to test people, which is you can't test intangibles. You can only test actionables in the sense that if they do it properly, even if they get lucky, that's what you got to deal with. But let's talk about your own end in regards to training, foundational, that kind of the establishment of a foundational training program. New students are coming in all the time. I know they come in all sizes and shapes. They come in at 18, hoping to maybe start a career. They come in at 35, looking for a way to get a little bit of adventure and get off from behind the desk. They come in 45, sometimes a little desperate, looking for that final second chance. It's all got to be to some degree the same, while at the same time acknowledging that these people have different ways of being talked to and different ways of understanding the world. How do you create a program that foundationally communicates the same stuff while understanding that, the people who are coming into trucking come from all walks of life?
Well, that is the $1 million question. The instructor that can tap into all those different veins or different personalities, so to speak, to get into them to understand so that they grasp the concepts is a better instructor. So you want to have a good, well-rounded instructor, one that's open to new ideas, one that has good experience, and that can kind of bounce between the two. The big thing with young people we find is you have to keep them motivated. It's hard to keep the young guy, it seems, to be more motivated, more engaged. But if you can engage that person, which is anything, if you're bored even as a senior person, if you're kind of bored and like I've been there, done that, and you're not engaged, you're not going to learn. So you always find ways to engage. Motivation and engagement is the first key. Open the mind's eye. Once the mind's eye opens up, now you can stuff in good information.
I'll tell you this. I was talking with Dean Croak of DAT earlier on in the show today, and we talked about the idea of we were talking about the idea of finding an area, that if you're in fact a great foundational driver, we were talking about drivers who have expertise. This is the craziest thing. There's a guy out in California, and his specialty is hauling Gulf sand. I kid you not. It has a whole series of things around it that you have to kind of master in order to properly transport it so that you don't ruin it, so that it's done properly and all that kind of stuff. And it was really interesting because we got into this talk, and he actually mentioned, Dean was talking about, I said, how do you become an expert in a particular area? And he said, the first thing you have to figure out, does it work with your home life? And I'm kind of wondering, in your long experience doing this, how much of a connective tissue are you guys allowed to make? But more importantly, do you actually talk about the idea of let's talk about what you're looking to get out of this, and let's talk about how we can connect that to what it is you're learning here? The idea of showing, do this, and this will have this effect on your lifestyle and your home life as well. Do you follow what I'm saying here, Mike, or am I being convoluted?
Well, to a degree, I do. So obviously, as a truck driver training program, you're teaching them to be safe operators of the equipment.
Right.
So being a good, safe operator means taking good care of your equipment. That means taking care of just you, your body, your car, whatever. So you have to take care of the equipment well. And if you start with that, I need to take care of this equipment because it's going to get me home, or it's going to make me my money, or it's going to keep me employed so I have income. That's a good start for foundational for your pre-trip inspection and how you drive. So we start with that premise. Once we got you trained and you're a safe operator of the equipment, now we're going to start looking at career paths. What is the proper career path for you to choose that's going to fit your best lifestyle? Now, that may mean that you don't get that job right away. It may mean a stepping process or several steps, career step ladders to get to where you want to be, but at least now you know your path.
And that, by the way, goes towards what many of you guys have to do in regards to when you're looking to get students in. That's one, I think, the foundation that kind of separates the great professional driving schools and the great VOTEC ones is that they might not have the job you're looking for immediately, but they actually can help you kind of draw the path to get to that place, which means you're only as good as your partners. And I was kind of curious, can you talk a little bit about both on your end how you cultivate relationships with companies that are looking for drivers, how you do it in a community way, because, of course you can cultivate a relationship with somebody 1,000 miles away, but it makes more sense, of course, to have people who are in the community who are looking for drivers, or at least in the radius of the community. That could be a statewide thing. Talk a little bit about forging the partnerships with the people who kind of want to get your students, and also at the same time how you kind of work with them to create the drivers that they need without limiting yourself.
Well, ironically, that became much easier, in the last 5 years, with COVID and things like that, and the driver shortage was sky high. They were looking to us to find the answer for their driver shortage. So they were actually coming to us. So that relationship was a much easier situation for us because they were knocking on our door versus us going to try and find them and knock on their door and get to them. So that's changed the landscape a little bit. But once you've met them and you do a good quality job of training those people, you've built a relationship, and they're like, wow, you put out a good product, a good student, and you continue to do that. That word of mouth grows, and they continue to use you. And at the same time, we're out there just, hey, we're always talking truck driver training, driver testing. That's all we do. So if we see businesses that come up or are growing and they need a driver, we try to go out and reach out to them and say, how you doing on your driver needs? A lot of times they're filling them within, and that's fine, but if they still need a license, they're going to need trained. We're here to help you.
We're entering into a new year. Happy New Year, by the way, Mike. And so we talked a little bit about what you saw last year, what was going on. In your crystal ball, and this could be an industry-wide thing, you talked about the ELDT stuff, and you talked about the idea of turning that rock over and finding, and you were very, very kind, by the way, in describing it. People who just have to get their acts together, because there are people out there who don't have their act together and never will get it together. But what do you see in your crystal ball in regards to both your own organization, what kind of challenges are you guys looking both forward towards and looking to kind of grapple with, but on the flip side, too, what do you see the demands of the industry making of programs like yours?
Well, I think looking forward, I think that the federal government and the state level is going to be highly for enforcing their regulations. I think we're going to see a lot more crackdown in 2026. We've already seen some more audits happening and inspections happening at the school level or training level. And I think as they do that, it's going to force them to either get better or find somebody to do that job for them. So our goal will be to just make certain that our name and our resources are out there so that when someone hits a roadblock and stubs their toe, we're going to be there to help pick up the pieces, help them get going and get back on track. So that's really where our aim, our focus is this year, to just keep up with our contacts, and some that have been doing it their own internally thing. If they find that they have a roadblock or a stumbling point, maybe we can fill that gap.
Let me ask you something in regards to your own program, because you've kind of, I guess the illusion is there, but we haven't gone straight to it. Are you finding that every once in a while, how many of your students actually are like, well, I got some training before, it was fly by night, it really was substandard. I need to get better at this because I can't get it. Because, there are people who get a basic foundational set of skills, and then the first job they have, if they are in fact fortunate, is from a company or for a small family run business where they're like, look, you've got the foundation you need. There's other stuff you need to learn, but we can get you the rest of the way. There's some people with a CDL, and this is true, show up and it's like, dude, I can't do anything with you. And they can't either get a job or they lose the first one because they really can't do it. Do you find that do you see any pattern of people returning to more, I guess we would call reputable institutions like yours, looking for the finishing that they need because they can't get into the company that would normally give them that finishing?
Yeah, I'd say overall that's happening because the companies are so highly regulated these days, and there's the political climate right now for good quality drivers so extreme. Insurance costs are sky high, nuclear verdicts. So the companies are really putting the pressure on to make certain we have a good quality driver. Driver shortage being a little bit less than it was gives them a little more room to be selective as well. So companies that find a driver are sending them. They're always protecting their assets and their company's name and reputation. The guy off the street, the guy that comes in off the street, it's still a mixed bag. It's still very much a mixed group. There's some that come in with them dreams and aspirations and don't really know what they're getting into. And sometimes it's an eye opener that says, wow, it's way more complicated than I thought, and I'm out and I can't do this industry. And then there's others that really have done a good research-based career path, and they're like, this is my next move. And even though they may not be real good at that, they know that it's the process and it's the methods, and they'll work hard enough at it. And again, same process as we've always stated. If you're in it, we're in it. We're not going to leave you behind if you're in it. The only time we get disenchanted is when we want it more than the student. Whenever we want it more than the student, it's usually never a good situation.
It's interesting too because I've done a lot of these segments, Mike, and it's the first time that is really a great kind of engagement for a trainer, isn't it? That's a really good way. I didn't think about that as a barometric, although it's kind of instinctive in people. That's a really kind of great gut feeling. Like, wait a minute, I'm actually chasing this more than you are, because it's one of the, and that's a good rule for anything. If you find somebody that you're training or somebody that you work with wants their accomplishment more than you do, that's kind of the giveaway. And the ability of a trainer to spot that, because sometimes your own enthusiasm for it blinds you to the fact that the student doesn't care anywhere near as much as you do, right?
Yep, and when that happens, it's loud and clear. It's usually not going to work for that individual. They just don't want it bad enough to do the sacrifice, to do the work, to do the methods, to learn, to make that next sacrifice to get to the next great gain. And anything good in life, and this is what we teach, anything good in life comes through with difficulty. The good stuff is on the other side of the mountain, but you just got to figure out a way to go over it or through it. But if you're not going to do that, you're not going to see the other side.
Yeah, I can only pull you up so many times before I got to cut you loose. At Trainco, you'll get actual hands-on driving experience plus classroom training taught by experienced instructors who respect you and the job. Unlike other schools, we keep our class sizes small. We're committed to quality professionalism. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit too. Talk about what hands-on driving experience means to you and what it means to your trainers and what the students can expect.
Well, hands-on, obviously, we have to do the theory part for the ELDT, so we're getting into that. But a lot of customers will come to us with ELDT theory done. They do it online. It's not my favorite way of doing the training, but it's the reality. There's a lot of people that go out and do that. We prefer they come in actually without that, and we do the theory in-house. And when we have that ability to do the theory from start to finish, we actually are embedding the theory as we go through the program. So we're going to do some theory, and then we're going right out to the truck, and then we're going to go back in the classroom, reinforce some more theory, add more theory, go back to the truck. So in the state of Ohio, for example, I mean, we're based on hours, and you can talk pros and cons about that. The state of Ohio, if you're following the Ohio public training guidelines, you're following an hour mandate, where ELDT is strictly a proficiency base. Proficiency gets to be a pretty gray area. What's the matrix as to what is proficient? So that matrix sometimes gets subjective. When you get into the hour side, I mean, you have to hit those hours. Those hours are pretty generous. If you do those hours, we're really confident that we're going to get really good in that program. It's obviously those hours are kind of high. The more hours you spend, the more cost to be trained, but it's worth it. The companies that recognize that and put their people through that full program and maximize that training time get it. The companies that are a little bit more on the want to shortcut it, they want to scale that back as much as they can. They're like, as soon as he's proficient, let's get out of here, let's go. So then you're always in that subjectivity area. Good today, maybe not tomorrow.
It's interesting, and I'm going off into left field, Mike. I do this occasionally when I keep thinking about the fact that I was having a conversation about AI with somebody yesterday, and one of the jokes that somebody has once told me that I actually tend to agree with: you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who actually knows how to use AI. And one of the things that came up was, if somebody gave me a 20-hour job, and it's a project planning job, let's not creative, but something project planning, and I used AI to kind of create the basic template. There are two ways of approaching what the AI has done. The first of which is to say, oh, I don't need the 20 hours that were earmarked for that. The second way, I kind of call it the German way, or what I call the American garage mechanic way, which is, oh, I got that done quicker. Now I can spend more time kind of working on the details of that. And it sounds like to me that the difference between that hourly mandate for a good trainer and a bad trainer is that what the good trainer does is says, oh, we're able to pick that up quicker, then there's more stuff to learn. Let's use every hour that is mandated to make sure that we get even the fine-tuning stuff done right. Is that kind of the approach you guys take with the hours?
Yeah, that's a very good analogy. That's excellent. I would only add to that by saying, even if you're not adding another repetition, reps, muscle memory becomes more. That muscle memory, once that muscle grows, it's stronger. So even the reps help, even if it's not something fine tuning or detailing.
But and I'm going to problematize that a little bit while agreeing with you. I would say that the rep actually has inside of it that the more you rep stuff, the more little things you discover inside of the rep that then help you improve it even that much more. So in many ways, yeah.
Exactly.
So you and I are kind of eye to eye on this, and I think that's what makes the difference. That if you commit to the whole thing, that becomes really kind of the core value that you guys are talking about. That we are going to do everything we can within the limits of the confines that we have been mandated to do, but we're going to maximize the hours that have been mandated, as opposed to minimizing them, saying like, well, what else we got to do? I don't know. Let's just kind of shoot the breeze, as opposed to being like, let's get back for, as you say, that extra rep. And that makes all the difference too. And of course, anybody would tell you the extra reps can also be added by where are you guys on simulators? Do you guys get a chance to work with those these days?
We don't. We don't have any within our organization. I guess I've been doing it for 30 years. I grew up without them. And I've spent some time on them. I get kind of sick when I drive the things. I don't know why.
I'm right there with you, Mike, by the way. I'm right there with you. I'm pretty good at handling a truck, and I got behind the wheel of a simulator. I'm like going, oh my God, I've got seasickness, and I never get seasickness. Never. Yeah, so I get that.
I can ride all day long in a car, but man, I ride about 5 minutes on that simulator. I'm like, man, I'm getting a little nauseous here. I got to get off this thing. And it just doesn't fit right with me. That's me. But again, I'm not a video game person. Didn't play a lot of video games growing up. It's a totally different generation. I think the simulators have a role as the newer generations come up. That's kind of just the way they learned, and that's their learning process. I do think they have some advantage. We don't have them, but I think there's some place for that.
No, and I'll tell you this too. I think that they're a terrific tool. I just don't think that they are a substitution. That is, I think, one of the biggest mistakes people have made with technologies, whether it's safety technologies, whether it's simulation technologies, is that people think, oh, I go back to the AI analogy. it's a terrific tool for a lot of things. It is not a substitute for hard-won experience and hard-won time in the actual real world, and that makes all the difference as well. My friend, it has been good talking to you again. It is good to have a new year kind of rolling in. What kind of boating stuff are you going to do this year? Got anything worked out?
Oh, hope to get out on the Great Lakes, see the islands some more, and maybe get up north a little bit as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to convince my producer over here to take a boat across the lake and go get a dinner across the lake Pontchartrain. It ain't as big as your great ones, but it ain't as small as most people's idea of a lake. Thank you, Mike. You're always welcome back, man. Good to have you.